What is going on, folks? It is Rigor Mortis. We are back with yet another video, and today we have a very important topic to talk about. Is it over, or do we still have higher to go? I am going to talk about very simply here what factors are going to be headwinds and tailwinds moving forward in this market, and why I think personally we still have a lot higher to go, but that is contingent on a lot of factors that are going to be coming down the pipeline, not only in the next several months, but as early as this Friday. So if you are new around here, make sure you hit that subscribe button, join the family, throw a like on this video so we can get it out to more people, and comment down below. I want to hear your thoughts and opinions on all things crypto. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First and foremost, to talk about where we are going, we have to talk about where we have been over the past year. Ethereum absolutely getting beaten down, and then all of the sudden, when everybody thought it was all over and that we were going to triple digits, Ethereum mounts the greatest comeback we have seen in recent times. Why did this happen? First and foremost, Treasury Companies. MicroStrategy and the like has been buying up Bitcoin left and right, and now Treasury Companies by the likes of Tom Lee have been buying Ethereum left and right like nobody's business. This is not only good for Ethereum, but good for crypto as a whole, as now strategy companies, fund companies, they're buying up supply because they believe in the technology. And you got to understand something about these companies. They don't look for the next week. They don't look for profits in the next 2 weeks. They look for profits in the order of years. And that is why I am so excited when it comes to things like Ethereum, because we know that these treasury companies have been buying up supply. Number two, the Federal Reserve. Nobody likes to talk about macroeconomics, and I'll be the first to admit I am no expert. But that being said, we know that the Federal Reserve has been more excited about cutting rates more recently than they have in the past. And that is due to some economic weakening, particularly in the labor market, as well as inflation that had shown some glimpses that it was going to be under better control, but more recently, and we'll talk about this, has been a little surprising. So where are we going? What is happening in the market, and why do I still believe that there is still higher to go? First and foremost, guys, if you're watching this video, you're probably not super well read up on macroeconomic structure, what the Federal Reserve is doing, and I totally understand that. Neither am I. But there are some fundamental things that you have to understand that I most definitely didn't understand when my first big cycle back in 2021 and 2022 came around. The Federal Reserve controls interest rates. Interest rates are what people use, what banks use in order to lend and borrow money. When interest rates are low, it is a way for the Federal Reserve to stimulate the economy. It means that there is some weakening. It means that I am going to fuel the economic outlook by lowering interest rates and allowing people to borrow money at a lower rate in order for people to be more excited about borrowing money. The flip side of that is that they raise rates whenever there is good economic outlook, as well as stubborn inflation. So what does that leave us with today? The labor market. The data is not pretty. Inflation, on the other hand, is also being stubborn. So the Federal Reserve is kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now, where the economic data, when it comes to unemployment, is suggesting, hey, we need to cut rates and stimulate the economy. However, the inflation data, and we'll have to piece this apart a little bit, is suggesting that they can't cut rates just yet. People ask me the difference between CPI and PPI. Guys, CPI is the consumer price index. PPI is the producer price index. Usually, PPI leads CPI. Now, we had a really good CPI report earlier this month. The PPI report was absolutely terrible, suggesting that this could potentially be a headwind coming down the pipeline for our risk assets. Because of the fact that PPI was high, we are anticipating a higher CPI read in the coming month. Where does that leave the Federal Reserve? I'm going to leave this in the description below. This is the CME watch tool. This essentially shows you how excited the market is about rate cuts when it comes to the Federal Reserve. Now, usually the Federal Reserve doesn't like to spook markets. So wherever this is leaning is usually what ends up happening. When there's a surprise, obviously we either moon or we crash and burn. So right now, what the market is saying is that there's an 85% chance of a 25 basis rate cut in September. The current rate is 425 to 450. The market is saying 400 to 425 in September. This is a dynamic number. This doesn't just stay the same. As soon as we get new data, these numbers tend to change. So whenever we got that unemployment data, this ended up going to 99%, meaning there was a 99% chance that the Federal Reserve was going to cut rates in September. Now that we got the PPI numbers, look what happened, 85% chance of a rate cut. So what's happening this Friday that could potentially send these two numbers changing? The Jackson Hole Federal Reserve Economic Policy Symposium. Guys, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell is going to be talking at this symposium. This is one of those things where I know if you're in crypto, you're not paying a lot of attention to these types of events, but this is one of those things where you definitely want to know what Jerome Powell is going to talk about when it comes to this meeting, to this symposium. We've had one round of economic data since the Federal Reserve met earlier, and I think that Jerome Powell on Friday will potentially, depending on which way he's leaning, the kind of vocabulary that he uses, the types of words that he chooses, this will sway these numbers one way or the other. So pay very, very close attention this Friday to that symposium. See what the Federal Reserve Chairman ends up saying about potentially cutting rates. And I think that's going to have a direct influence on our assets such as Ethereum and Bitcoin. That was all I had for you guys in today's video. Obviously, this is going to be a very telling week in my opinion, but I think there are some more exciting weeks to come. The Federal Reserve is in a very, very tight spot right now. But given all of the data, I think they are going to be more excited about cutting rates, with the idea being that PPI, that high number that we got earlier this week, last week, was just a transient number, will go up and hopefully go down next month. So I still think we have a lot more excitement yet to come. That is all I had for you guys in today's video. It's been your boy Rigor Mortis. I'm out to scene, folks. Peace.